The haunting tweet. I was just like any other Twitter user, scrolling through my feed, liking memes, and retweeting funny posts. Little did I know that one seemingly harmless tweet would turn my world upside down. One evening, as I was browsing Twitter in bed, a tweet caught my eye. It was a simple message from an account with no followers and no profile picture. The tweet read, "What's your deepest fear?" Intrigued, I decided to reply with my answer, thinking it was just another spooky internet trend. Within seconds, I received a direct message from the mysterious account. It said, "You shouldn't have told me that." I dismissed it as a prank and tried to ignore the eerie feeling creeping over me. Within seconds, I received a direct message from the mysterious account. It said, "You shouldn't have told me that." I dismissed it as a prank and tried to ignore the eerie feeling creeping over me. But then things got strange. My phone started acting up. It would randomly open Twitter, displaying the tweet and the creepy message. Even when I force closed the app, it would reopen by itself. I decided to block the mysterious account, hoping that would put an end to the bizarre messages. But instead, it made things worse. I started getting notifications from other accounts, all with the same cryptic message, "You shouldn't have told me that." I couldn't escape it. The message appeared on my Twitter feed, my notifications, and even in my email inbox. It felt like the entire internet was closing in on me, and I had no idea who was behind it. One night, as I lay in bed, my phone screen suddenly lit up with the message, "I know your fear." The room grew cold, and I could hear faint whispers in the darkness. I tried to turn off my phone, but it wouldn't respond. The message on the screen changed to something that sent chills down my spine, "I'm here." In the dim light, I saw a shadowy figure at the foot of my bed. Panic surged through me as I fumbled for the light switch. When the room was bathed in light, there was no one there. Terrified, I called a friend, and they stayed on the line with me until morning. I deleted my Twitter account, hoping it would end the haunting. But even after abandoning the platform, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. To this day, I have no explanation for what happened, but I'll never forget the eerie tweet that turned my Twitter feed into a nightmare. It's a chilling reminder that the digital world can hold secrets and terrors beyond our comprehension. Not my mother. This eerie incident occurred about 11 years ago when I was a high school senior. It remains one of the most bewildering and spine-chilling experiences of my life. Let me set the scene. It was mid-December in Iowa, where winters are icy and nights are bone-chillingly cold. My friend and I were hanging out in the family's basement, battling the winter blues with video games. We thought we were alone because my mom had gone to work and then to a bar with her coworkers. So, naturally, we decided to break into the family wine and have a little fun. As we were about to open the first bottle, I heard the garage door open and slam shut. Panic surged through me. My friend asked, "I thought you said your mom was going to be out all night." I replied affirmatively. Then, heavy footsteps approached the stairs, and I heard my mother's voice call out, "Mio-san boo? Anyone home?" I shouted back, "Yep, just hanging out in the basement." But something felt off. The voice was my mother's, but not quite right, as if something was missing. Then, she asked, "Can you come help me with something? I need you up here." I agreed, but while scrambling to hide the wine bottle, I heard a question that sent shivers down my spine. "Anyone down there with you?" My family had never cared about visitors, and the voice, well, it sounded like my mother's, but different. I replied, "Just Colton." As I walked up the stairs, a strange silence engulfed the house. When I reached the top, I noticed that the entire area around the garage and kitchen was pitch black. No lights, no moonlight, just darkness. I called out for my mom, but there was no response. The feeling that something was terribly wrong was overwhelming. I returned to the basement, grabbed my coat, and told Colton, "My mom's not home." He looked confused. "But you were just talking to her?" I couldn't leave my pets alone, sensing that something sinister lurked. "No, I can't leave them. Something's not right. I'll call my mom." So, I dialed her number, and she answered immediately. I explained the situation, hoping it was some prank, but she was just leaving the bar, nowhere near home. I rushed back to the basement, grabbed my phone, and felt the presence again. Colton and I waited with our pets until my mom arrived, but before she did, there was something, not walking or moving objects, but an oppressive force in the air, like a ravenous void. When my mom returned, the presence vanished, as if a predatory entity had flown away. To this day, we can't explain what happened, and it's just one of many unexplained occurrences in our lives. My mom has since passed away, and I've moved to Arizona, but whenever I see Colton, this story still creeps us out. I'll never know what it was, but whatever had my mother's voice, it was evil and very hungry. A terrifying night shift, true story. This happened about 11 years ago when I was working overnight as a security guard at the local port. The port was massive, spanning nearly 2 miles in radius, and typically, there were 3 guards on shift during the night, including myself. This was necessary due to the vastness of the area, and one of the main posts for guards during the night was the front gate, where all of us would be stationed because there was minimal activity at that time. The veteran guards had stories about the place being haunted, and considering the accidents and deaths that had occurred there in the past, I couldn't entirely dismiss the idea. I was aware of the tragic history of the location, and being a religious person, I believed in the existence of supernatural entities. However, I initially thought the senior guards were just trying to spook us newcomers. I worked 5 to 6 nights a week, and for the first few weeks, everything seemed relatively normal. There were some odd creaking sounds and the occasional misplaced object during my patrol rounds, but nothing too alarming. To give you a better picture, the port was equipped with a gym, and it was quite old. This gym had a sauna, weights, and even a racquetball court, which is like an indoor tennis court with thin plastered walls and thick glass doors. During our patrols, my colleague Mike and I would occasionally stop by the gym to play racquetball before returning to the front gate. However, one night, around 2:30 a.m., we decided to have a full workout session instead. The gym was eerily quiet. You could even hear the faint hum of the electricity running through the lights. The air conditioner was off, as were all other devices, leaving only the lights illuminated. About 15 to 20 minutes into our workout, we heard a loud thump. At first, we brushed it off as nothing significant and continued our exercise. But then, another loud thump echoed through the gym. We thought it might be our lieutenant walking around, but when we radioed him, he confirmed he was at the front gate. Puzzled, we tried to rationalize what could be causing those thumps on the wall. They seemed to be coming from the racquetball court on the other side. We thought maybe it was the air conditioner, but we remembered it was off, and even when it was running during the day, there had never been reports of such thumping. The thumps became more frequent, occurring one after the other. We were deeply unsettled at this point, and what happened next terrified us beyond belief. We cautiously approached the glass door of the racquetball court, shining our flashlights through it. What we saw sent shivers down our spines and made my eyes well up with fear. The Midnight Visitor. One stormy night, I was home alone, and the thunder rumbled outside. Just as I was about to go to bed, I heard a faint knock at the front door. I cautiously approached and peeked through the peephole. There stood a drenched, disheveled man who looked terrified. Without thinking, I opened the door. The man claimed his car had broken down, and he needed to use my phone. I hesitated, but eventually let him in. As he dialed a number, I noticed something odd, a trail of wet footprints leading from the front door into the living room, but no corresponding footsteps leading out. My heart pounded, and a sense of dread washed over me. I asked the man to wait while I checked something in the kitchen. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911, whispering to the dispatcher that I thought I had an intruder in my house. The police arrived quickly, and when they confronted the man, he fled out the back door. They arrested him moments later. It turned out he had a history of breaking into homes and had been hiding in my basement. That night, my gut feeling had saved me from a dangerous situation. The enigmatic forest clearing. My childhood was steeped in woodland adventures, especially behind and to the left of my grandparents' house. More often than not, I had my younger cousin, Ben, with me during these escapades. We'd roam the first mile of the forest, exploring ponds, inspecting animal bones, and discovering peculiar fungi, typical boyhood adventures. But one particular adventure stands out vividly in my memory. During one school year, I received a backpack with a little built-in compass on the top. The compass wasn't perfect. It worked best when placed flat on the ground. Nevertheless, it meant we could venture deeper into the woods without fear of getting lost. One day, Ben and I met at the middle of the levee and embarked on our journey. We trekked about 3 or 4 miles in and stumbled upon a clearing, a rather unusual one. It was nearly a perfect rectangle, with one corner slightly dented due to the surrounding trees. The clearing was about half the size of a football field. What caught our attention immediately was the grass. It was unlike anything we'd seen in the woods. It resembled the lush, dark green grass you'd find on the lawns of affluent folks, not the scraggly stuff that grew everywhere else or the type some used to attract deer for hunting. Curious, I asked Ben if he knew of anyone who lived this far out. Perhaps it was someone's hunting ground or backyard. He wasn't sure, so we walked the entire perimeter, hoping to find a trail or back road leading somewhere. But there was nothing of the sort, just thorns and bushes, much like the way we had entered. It seemed as though the entire field had been dropped there. In the center of the clearing, we noticed a patch of grass longer and brighter than the rest. In the woods, such patches usually indicated a lot of animal waste or a dead carcass. As we approached, it became clear it was the latter, just a long spine with no ribs or skull, perhaps from a cow or horse. The strange thing was that the spine was completely straight, lacking the usual curvature. Creeped out, we decided it was time to head home. I wanted to use my compass to navigate, so I set it on the ground. That's when three eerie things happened almost simultaneously. First, the spine pointed in the exact direction we had come from. Second, there was an eerie silence, no birds, squirrels, or insects making a sound. Lastly, I noticed a crack down the middle of my compass's glass, which couldn't have happened through ordinary use. It was as if something sinister had tampered with it. Without mentioning these observations to Ben, I confidently donned my backpack and led the way home. However, in the following years, when we attempted to return to that clearing, we never found it again. We met at the same spot, walked in the same direction, and covered what felt like the same distance, but the clearing remained elusive. It was as if it had vanished from existence. My older brother shared a similar experience, along with my other cousin, involving a lean-to filled with broken glass and bungee cords. It left us all baffled and fascinated. I've since read stories of people finding mysterious towns in the desert, only to be unable to locate them again, despite taking the same routes. We had seemingly encountered a similar inexplicable phenomenon. It might not have been terrifying, but it was undeniably intriguing. I'd love to hear if any of you have had similar experiences.